We all know how awesome a mask can be in pro wrestling. Kane and Mankind had their biggest breaks in wrestling thanks to the power of the mask. Other wrestlers, though, put on a mask only to take it off shortly after. Here are 15 wrestlers who once wore a mask. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and join the notification squad. Sergeant Slaughter. The most 80s sounding name possible, Super Destroyer Mark II was a masked wrestler in the AWA. It almost sounds like a Southpaw regional wrestling gimmick, but it was an actual character. Better yet, he was managed by both Lord Alfred Hayes and Bobby Heenan. We literally cannot make this stuff up. And behind the mask was none other than former WWE champion and Hall of Famer, Sergeant Slaughter. Before Slaughter hit the big time in the WWE, and with his G.I. Joe success, Slaughter was behind this rather bland mask. We guess it's still better than being an Iraqi sympathizer though. At least you don't have threats sent to you. Just incredible. Despite what his name suggests, Just Incredible was in fact never incredible. Okay, not to say that Peter Polacco is necessarily a bad wrestler, but some things will always come back to haunt you. Sometimes it's an STI, other times it's a yellow jockstrap attached to your face. Yeah, this ridiculous looking action figure guy is actually the former member of the totally cool X Factor stable, Just Incredible, playing the Portuguese man of war Aldo Montoya. Incredible amazingly stayed around for 2 years playing this character. Shock of all shocks, Montoya didn't set the world afire with this gimmick, mainly serving as a jobber for big names like Shawn Michaels. Thankfully for Credible, he would later become a beloved wrestler in ECW, so good for him. Just bury the jockstrap, whatever you do, man. Greg Valentine. Before he was being an out-of-touch sexist asshole, Greg the Hammer Valentine was an 80s mainstay in the NWA. He went on to have numerous stints in the WWE as well, and this was definitely the lowest he has ever sunk in the company before his release. At Survivor Series 1993, Shawn Michaels had assembled a team of knights to face off against the Hart family. Amazingly, Vince McMahon didn't force these knights to wrestle in suits of armor. Instead, he settled on simple black masks. Valentine would be the Blue Knight during the match and would last 24 minutes before being eliminated by Owen Hart via sharpshooter. On the bright side, he was the second to last guy to be eliminated on his team. On the downside, he had to wear a bland as hell mask. Al Snow. Alright, so we know that Mick Foley is the undisputed king of Al Snow jokes, but we're going to try our best here. Wait, we don't have to. Snow just did it to himself. Before he hit legendary mid-Carter status with his popular head gimmick, Snow portrayed numerous characters in WWE. One of these was the masked villain known as Shinobi. No, not the old Sega video game character, but a ninja assassin hired by Jim Cornette to take out Shawn Michaels. Jesus, Cornette, isn't that a bit overkill? Actually, this being Cornette, that seems somehow logical. Well, luckily, Al had the skill to live past this ninja gimmick. The Undertaker. There has actually been 2 different masks that the dead man has rocked over the years. One was out of pure necessity, the other for disguise. The first of Taker's masked appearances takes place in 1995. After breaking his orbital bone, in real life, WWE concocted a storyline where King Mabel broke his face with a series of leg drops. Suck it, Hulk Hogan. Did that injury stop the dead man? Oh hell no. He rocked a skull-like mask that made Shao Kahn look like a chump. Once his face healed, he took that one off, only to put on his brother Kane's mask years later in 1999. Once the Ministry of Darkness story took off, Taker dressed up as Kane to get close to Vince McMahon to torment him some more. Why Taker did that when he can teleport is beyond anyone's comprehension. Eddie Guerrero. Being put behind a mask really doesn't make much sense for a lot of people on this list. Perhaps most stupidly of all would have to be Eddie Guerrero. Guerrero is able to tell a lot of stories simply with his facial expressions, and yet that skill of his was neglected by being put under a mask. That'd be super dumb. But wait, that's exactly what happened when Guerrero competed in Japan. Acting as a successor to the popular Black Tiger character in Japan, Guerrero made his way into Japan as Black Tiger 2. So while Guerrero's gift of facial expressions was hidden, he still enjoyed much success in New Japan Pro Wrestling. In his autobiography, Cheating Death, Stealing Life, Guerrero also credited the role with allowing him to explore his in-ring style. This led to more aggressiveness and found curiosity in his work that he didn't think he had had before. Hulk Hogan. Now we know what you're thinking. You're thinking, oh Sportster, how stupid do you think we are? We obviously know that Hogan once wore a mask in 2003 as part of his feud with Vince McMahon. Everybody knows that. Okay, fair enough, but hold on a minute. Years before Hogan became a big star in the WWE, he was just another wrestler. He was so unknown that he competed under the mask character of the Super Destroyer. Hulk was all the way down south in Fort Myers, Florida, where he wrestled for Championship Wrestling from Florida. This was a mask and a character adopted by many other wrestlers. Hogan was just the latest guy in the lineage. See? Bet you didn't know that. What do you think? Sami Zayn. When WWE shows off video packages or photos of Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn fighting or teaming up in their days before WWE, you may have noticed something off. Why is Zayn wearing a mask? That is the wrong question though. What you actually should be asking is who exactly is El Generico? Well, according to our research, it appears that El Generico was actually the Mexican mentor of Zayn. Once Generico retired from in-ring competition, Zayn used his moves as a tribute to his mentor. Reddit shenanigans aside, El Generico was Zayn's original wrestling character. This was the guy who feuded with Owens and competed all across the world. Upon entering the WWE, Zayn dropped the character and began his career anew. If we had to bet though, we're sure we'll see El Generico before Zayn's WWE career is over. Hey, it's quiz time. Here's the question for you. What was the original planned name for Mick Foley's masked character Mankind? Stay tuned to find out. John Cena. 2010 was a bad year for John Cena, potentially the worst of his career as a main eventer. Sure, his win-loss record wasn't that bad, but the fan hatred for Cena was at a fever pitch during this time. This stint where Cena wore a mask certainly didn't help matters. At the end of Survivor Series 2010, John Cena was fired by Nexus leader Wade Barrett. This was a big deal. How long would Cena be gone for? How would he return? Oh, he just put on a mask and called himself Juan Cena? Gah, that's dumb. He competed only at one live event with this gimmick in Mexico. Thankfully, this didn't last long, but we shall never forget Juan. Alberto Del Rio. Coming from a legacy of legendary masked luchadors, Alberto Del Rio is the son and nephew of Dos Caras and Mil Máscaras, respectfully. With that in mind, you would have to assume that Del Rio donned a mask at one point in his career, and sure enough, he did. Throughout his wrestling career in Mexico and Japan, Del Rio competed under the name Dos Caras Jr.'s, wearing a mask very similar to his father's. Unlike other wrestlers on the list, Del Rio actually competed in a legitimate sport while wearing a mask. While he actually amassed a winning record of 9-5 as of today, his MMA career will always be remembered for being on the receiving end of a massive head kick from Mirko Cro Cop. If you feel like Del Rio has been an ass lately, be sure to watch that video. Daniel Bryan. Yes! 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 Daniel Bryan did indeed wear a mask prior to his WWE career. In fact, he wore all the way back when he began his career as a pupil of Shawn Michaels. Donning the persona of the American Dragon, Bryan was dealt this name by Michaels. This was simply due to the fact that Bryan's in-ring style reminded Michaels of Japanese performers. Seeing as Bryan was just starting his career here, the mask he was wearing wasn't exactly perfect, but it got the job done. The role fit Bryan even better once he traveled to Japan. The gimmick took off so well that Bryan kept wearing the mask even long after it was revealed who he was and who wore the dragon's head. Chris Jericho. Jushin Thunder Liger is one of the most iconic performers in Japanese wrestling history. Winner of countless titles and innovator of several moves, including the shooting star press, Liger is an icon. But what's better than Liger? Super Liger. Yet, this cartoony sounding name was an actual performer in Japan for all of one match. The problem was the man behind the mask was Chris Jericho, had never wrestled in a mask before and had a lot of trouble seeing in it. Walking around was hard enough. Wrestling was nearly impossible. Jericho flopped in his debut and Thunder Liger's planned revival was buried before he ever rose out of the ground. Roddy Piper. Known for his manic facial expression and insane gift of gab, Roddy Piper is perhaps the best talker from WWE's golden age in the mid-1980s. However, before he was rocking a kilt, he was rocking a mask on his crazy face. Wrestling under the gimmick of the Masked Canadian, yeah, wonder how long that one took to come up with, Piper drew massive heat in the NWA. While his time under a mask didn't last long, he did end up winning tag team belts with Chavo Guerrero Sr. While Piper knew that using facial expression was out of the question under a mask, he says it did force him to focus on body language. Piper would leave the NWA's California region in order to work for promoter Don Owens in Portland. Bray Wyatt. Wyatt has had followers on his deranged and idiotic cult put on sheep masks before. What you may not know is that Wyatt himself also donned a mask in his career, just not one of the animal variety. In between his main roster runs as Husky Harris and the current run as Bray Wyatt, Wyatt was tuning his character in NXT. One week, out of nowhere, Wyatt entered the ring wearing a white Phantom of the Opera style mask. Wrestling fans, being the fickle lot we are, raged at Wyatt for supposedly ruining his character. Wyatt had to explain via Twitter that he was only wearing it because of a broken nose. In a few weeks, it was gone, and fans rejoiced, now knowing that it wasn't a mask that would ruin Bray Wyatt, but terrible booking. Ric Flair. You wouldn't think that it was possible, but it actually happened. Ric Flair, perhaps the most iconic wrestler in the entire sports history, actually wore a mask. But wait, the story gets crazier. In 1990, a character named the Black Scorpion had been terrorizing WCW World Champion Sting. This man was capable of performing magic, arrived in the arena in a spaceship, and spoke in a distorted voice. This feud eventually led to a match between the Scorpion and Sting at Starrcade 90. Because Scorpion, no, not that one, lost, he was forced to unmask. Sure enough, it was Ric Flair. Wait a minute, hold on. You mean to tell us that Ric Flair was capable of performing magic and traveling in a spaceship? Why in the hell did Flair never use that stuff ever again or before? Oh well, at least we know Flair gets the Space Mountain after all. Woo! You waited for it, now here it is. Vince McMahon's original vision for the Mankind character was Mankind the Mutilator. McMahon's reasoning was that wrestling never had a mutilator before, so we must have one now. Thankfully, Mick Foley talked him out of it. Well, that's it for our list. Who are some of the other wrestlers who rocked the mask at some point in their careers? Some guys can pull it off, while others just simply can't. Don't forget to like this video, share it, and subscribe to TheSportster for more awesome content. See you next time.